The first place I went in a Rolls Royce was McDonald's drive-thru.
Literally like off the lot and then...
Yeah, exactly.
Because?
I just thought it was cool to go to McDonald's in a Rolls Royce. Why not, right?
Okay, we are back with our last episode of season 3 of Real Talk. And I'm excited today. So we've got Executive Chairman, President, CEO of Douglas Elliman, Chairman of Nathan's Famous, CEO of Vector Group, philanthropist, father, friend of mine, my boss, Howard Lorber.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today, Stephen.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
And he's a great storyteller. And so let's hear some good stories, all right?
Well, I would say that one of the good stories right now is how well we're doing in December.
Okay.
And it's really, really going to be a very big month for us. And you should be happy about that also. Because us include you. So
yes, we're having a good December.
And,
thank God.
That's a great story.
Yep.
And also, I think in general, the other great story is really how some of the markets that we're in are performing very well. New York has been a little slow, but I'm a big believer in New York City. A big believer in New York City. You know, when I started spending more time in Florida, I asked a bunch of guys that I knew that were moving down to Florida, taking their families, their kids, and I did a survey. And of the, I think, 23 people I asked, not one of them sold their apartment or townhouse in the city, which means not necessarily they're coming back full time.
Right.
Some of them probably will, but they want to have a place in the city because New York City is the greatest city in the world. It has everything. If you put all the other great cities together, everything they have amongst them, New York City has in one place.
Wow.
In New York City. And so I think that New York City will be the number one second home market for the world.
Interesting. Wow. We could just end right there. Okay.
Yeah.
That was good. Wow. Well, I was going to start with a pit and peak, but that's certainly a peak. Do you have any pits? Last month or so, that was great and positive. What's the negative? Anything personal?
No, the negatives there was really nothing really negative.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, hey, look, after you have an unbelievable year like 2021, everything seems negative after it.
Right.
And what I tell myself and I tell everyone is that you really can't measure against 2021. 2021 was, I don't know what it was. We were all very thrilled about it because we all made a lot of money and it was a big year. And then came 2022 and then that started better and then went down and then into 2023.
Yeah.
So I think that that's probably the bad part of the story because
the comparison
people want to use 2021. And I tell them, look, that's not the point you have to use. If you want to think back, okay, and you want to look at what prices really were more realistic, look at 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Those are the ones that you have to point to.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons there is very little inventory because the inventory or the sellers want to get a price like it was in their mind in 2021.
Right.
And that's not happening today. Not with these interest rates.
No. So, all right, we'll come back to business, but let's take a step back. A little bit of like, this is your life. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Where were you born? Tell me about your family.
I was born in the Bronx near Yankee Stadium.
Wow. Okay.
Lived in a 2-family house that my grandmother owned. So my parents were in the house, part of the house, and my grandmother and grandfather lived in the other part.
This was your father's side or your mother's side?
This is my mother's side.
Okay.
This is my mother's side. My father's side, my grandfather on my father's side was living in Florida. He was on his, I think, third, fourth, or fifth wife. I can't... lost count.
Okay.
But I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather to a lesser degree because my grandfather passed away when I was about 5 years old.
Got it. Okay. And what side of the family? Your father's side was from Greece?
No, my mother's side.
Your mother's side.
My mother's side was from Greece, from Thessaloniki.
Right.
Which, when she passed away, we found 3 birth certificates. One said she was born in Turkey. One said she was born in the Ottoman Empire, And one said she was born in Thessaloniki, which was Greece.
That is amazing.
Yeah, there are 3 different ones. But you can make the case that they all were the same because they kept changing in those years.
Right.
So the best thing for me was my grandmother did the cooking in the house. And so I remember when she'd make my lunch for school, that all the kids would be eating tuna fish sandwiches and peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I was eating feta cheese sandwiches and spinach sandwiches.
Okay.
Which was the Greek style.
Okay. So Evangela Brock, one of our agents, told me that when she comes to see you,
she brings the spinach pies.
She brings you
spanakopita.
Spanakopita. Right. Exactly. She just told me that actually. All right.
And I was lucky enough to get my Greek citizenship. It was a little difficult because of the different dates on the passports.
Right.
On the birth certificates, the different places, but I got my passport 2 years ago, and my citizenship.
What made you do that?
I wanted to sort of do it to honor my grandparents.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
that's interesting because more and more people are talking about. We're looking at dual citizenships. Right. Kirk's family, his father's German, so we could do Germany. I think I can because we're married now. But definitely he and the girls, and then of course we talk about Israel. Yeah. But I think Israel we don't need. Right. As much as somewhere else.
Yeah. So, well, Israel, it's easy. Just move there.
Just move there. Exactly. So we're not going to waste our time
move there.
Exactly.
But, don't forget, in Greece, there was, when the war started, when the Nazis invaded Greece, there were 100,000 Jews in Greece. They killed 95,000. They took to Auschwitz and murdered. So there were very few left. And so my grandparents had left early.
That's what
they were teenagers. Okay. They left in the 20s. Not in the late 30s and 40s.
Right.
So,
but they left on their own or with their families?
They left on their own.
So
they were teenagers.
Your family perished.
Pretty much, my grandmother would tell me that pretty much everyone that they knew, and relatives and friends, whatever, all perished during the Holocaust.
Wow. So, you lead us to something. I'm just going to go here right now. So, you're chairman of the National Holocaust Museum.
United States Holocaust Memorial Museum.
Okay. Yeah. So that's an appointed position.
Yeah, presidential appointment. Yeah.
Right. But you're talking about anti-Semitism. And certainly we're in a time right now where, Steven Spielberg finally came out and said something, but that he's never seen it in his lifetime since the Holocaust. What are your thoughts on what's going on? And
my thoughts are similar to Spielberg's. Yeah. It's pretty awful.
Yeah.
And maybe more awful. I always say in all bad events, there's some good things that happen.
Absolutely.
And the good things that happen, though, are sort of awful because we all know now how what the schools are telling people, in from the lower grades through college with what we used to consider the best schools in the world, whether it's Harvard, Columbia, Penn, these schools had presidents and chairmen and plenty of the professors. They weren't doing the right thing with the students. They were basically taking the position that, it's okay if, they talk about, from the river to the sea, because no one knows what that means really, but that's not true. Everyone with half a brain knows what it means.
Right.
And they were letting certain of the school population that were really anti-Semitic, they let them voice themselves.
Yeah, as free speech.
As free speech, which is ridiculous. Yeah. So I think we learned a lot. I think a lot of us knew that was going on for years, but it really came out now.
I have to say, I always knew it. Yeah. I've studied the Holocaust. I knew that it could happen, but the veil was certainly the very light veil was lifted after October 7th. And we were actually, and I really define after October 7th, a feeling of what I'm experiencing in my life and in the world. But we were all in Palm Beach, October 6th.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But you talk about a silver lining. I will say, it's unifying a lot of people.
Right.
So that's wonderful. But also, I think different than the Holocaust, people are standing up, certainly people who, such as yourself, that are in positions of contribution and make a difference in saying, you've lost my support or what it might be.
And also, I'm very proud. I'm very close with Robert Kraft. And,
Yeah.
he put in a lot of money for the anti-Semitism when you see the little box.
Yeah. And that was a while ago he started that.
Yeah.
Yep. He was
Before
ahead of his
all this
time.
happened.
Yeah.
It was about a year and a half ago.
Right.
So,
Yeah, good for him.
Thank God for people like him.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of business leaders. That encourages me.
Yeah.
And
Well, Mark Rowan, who really started it by writing the first
Penn.
letter to Penn.
Yeah.
He's the head guy at Apollo.
Yeah.
It's a major company.
And he was, when he first came out, I mean, he really was the leader of all this.
He was.
Stepping up. He was amazing.
Then you had Bill Ackman follow, and you had lots of other people follow.
Yeah, thank God. So there's a little bit of a silver lining. And, well, the Jews aren't going anywhere. So, but it's a sad time.
Yep.
All right. So let's get back to, we'll leave all that. Let's get back to a more innocent childhood. Right. So how many siblings do you have?
I have a sister that's 5 years younger than me.
Yeah.
No, excuse me, 5 years younger. Yeah, 5 years younger, and a brother that's 10 years younger.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So you all grew up together.
My grandmother, who we lived with at the time, we moved from the Bronx. She sold the house. We moved from the Bronx.
Okay.
And moved to New Jersey. And my sister and my grandmother lived in one bedroom. My brother and I lived in another bedroom.
Yeah.
My parents had a bedroom, and there was only one full bathroom.
For all of you, for the six of you.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a half bath, but there was only one. Now I can't even share a bathroom with anyone. Just maybe.
We were talking about what keeps a relationship alive.
Yeah.
It's
large living
bathrooms.
spaces and separate bathrooms.
Exactly. And someone went on to say separate bedrooms.
Yeah.
But okay.
I haven't gone that far.
Right. Well, good. All right. It's still fresh.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So you're in high school, and then you go to college, Long Island.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
You've achieved all this, your father, philanthropist, business person, friend, you're active in the community. Did you envision this? Did you
it's interesting because everyone used to say to me, I don't know why, like my parents' friends and stuff, so you're really going to be great. You're going to be a winner.
When you were younger.
When I was younger, and I couldn't figure it out myself why they thought that.
What they were seeing something, but you didn't know what it was.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that I wasn't confident. I thought I was confident, but I still questioned it,
Right.
If everyone tells you how great you are, and then what happens if you're not so great?
Right. That's right. Of
then
course.
you're really depressed.
Right.
So I was worried about that.
But so there was some light, or people saw things in you.
Yeah.
At what point did you see it in yourself?
Well, I went to college, and I wanted to be an electrical engineer.
Okay.
And then
Your father was?
My father was an electrical contractor.
Right.
And so I go to school, and I wanted to have an engineering program.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first year, they stopped the program because there weren't enough people enrolling in the program. So I asked around. I said, what's the easiest way to graduate this place and get out of here? If it's not going to be the engineer or whatever. So they told me the easiest way to graduate is become a sociology major. So I said, fine. So I became a sociology major. I didn't even know what it was, sociology. So I wasn't going to be a social worker. I knew that. So I got through it, and it was pretty easy, and, it wasn't really difficult. But then when I graduated, I started thinking, what do I want to be? I want to be something in finance. So I wanted.
Were you good with numbers?
Yeah, I was very good. I was very good at numbers.
Okay.
I was the type, I had very high SATs in math.
Yeah.
And 0 in English. So
clearly you knew where to lean.
Yeah, exactly. So I tried getting a job at a stock brokerage firm.
Right.
I wanted to be a stockbroker. I finally got one at what you would call today, or in the past, a bucket shop.
Yeah.
Those were the only guys that were hiring. And then ultimately that went out of business. I went to a bigger firm, a New York Stock Exchange firm.
Right.
And I enjoyed it.
And you did well.
Yeah.
And you're young. You're in your 20s.
I did well. And I decided that, to really be successful, you have to know how to, in business, any business, I should be able to read a balance sheet, read a P&L, and, look at the numbers. So I went back to school. I got a master's degree in accounting.
Where?
At Post. At the same place I went to
at Post,
yep. So I got a master's degree there. Then I got an honorary doctorate there from there.
But the honor, that's years later when you spoke at graduation.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't have to study for that
But
one.
it was important to go back.
Sure.
And how could you really be a business person in business if you can't read
right.
financial statements? So I think that's basic.
And then, so were you working at the time, or you went back full time?
I was a stockbroker.
Yeah.
No, I went back part time.
Okay.
For my master's.
So still working, and getting your master's,
being a broker.
Yeah.
So I was a stockbroker for 5 years of bad market. But one of the interesting things, which I tell brokers today in our business, in the real estate business, that a bad market is not necessarily bad for a broker, because what I did is I just cold called and I opened up so many accounts. You know why? Because I didn't have these accounts. I didn't lose any money for them. All of them lost money with their existing broker. I was a newbie. I didn't have time to lose their money.
Right.
But if I had them as clients, they would have lost money with me also, because you can't fight a real bad market.
Right.
So I opened up hundreds of accounts.
That's amazing.
And that's how I started the business.
Right.
And then about 1975, I left the business and I went into the insurance business, mostly life insurance and pension plans
Sales.
and so forth. Sales.
So why the switch?
Because I didn't like the idea of people losing money when you can't control them losing money.
Right.
Because in a bad market, always going to
no matter what
always
you do.
going to lose
That's
money.
right. Yeah.
And I never knew what to say when someone would call me. The worst time for a broker in a bad market is when tax time, because now they look at their tax return and they see how much money they lost, and they'd call and say, "Oh, I lost $85,000," and I'd say, "Oh, not bad. I thought you lost more." I didn't know what else to say, so that was my way of handling it. But I was uncomfortable. I didn't like it.
Okay.
So when you talk about the insurance and tax planning and things like that and estate planning, there's no one that ever complains about it. First of all, when they're gone, they're gone. But they're on their deathbed, they realize that their family is going to get taken care of.
Right.
Because
so you're giving them something for security.
You're giving them security.
But you were more than just insurance sales. You got involved in financial planning and all that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
I got all the degrees. I got a chartered life underwriter degree. I got a chartered financial consultant degree. So I did all
successful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And in between, when did you get married and start a family?
I got married when I was, I think, 21.
Wow, you were young.
Yeah, I was young. Maybe I was 22. I think I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was 22.
And Brian and Michael came along fairly.
No, 5 years later.
That's not that long.
Yeah. I was in shock, so I didn't want to. Yeah. 5 years later, Brian was born, and then I think it was another 5 years till Michael was born.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 5 years apart.
All right. 2 kids, 2 grandkids later. Not bad.
Yeah. Not bad.
All right. So insurance now is
and
this
more to come, hopefully.
What's that? Please God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully. So is this the Bob Ide time with?
Yeah. Because Bob was working for the insurance agency that I was putting my business with.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah.
You have this general agency that represents certain companies, and Bob worked for the guy there, but he didn't like it. So then he joined us, and we had a small brokerage firm that we did very well with. A trading firm.
This was early 80s.
Even when I was in the insurance business.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was, in the 80s. And then ultimately around 88, I sold that business, the insurance business, to a big public company, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, who was a publishing company.
Right.
But they had also bought an insurance company, a life insurance company. And they really wanted to get my business, so they figured the way to do it is buy my company and whatever.
Were you part of it, or you just sold
No.
it?
I still ran it.
Yeah,
still ran it. And then ultimately, I ended up getting it back. I think I sold it for stock.
Right.
I got very lucky. The stock, usually you sell it for stock, and by the time you're allowed to sell the stock,
it's down.
It plummets.
Yeah. Right.
I was in a situation where, by the time I was ready to sell the stock, it probably was triple what it was. When I sold the company.
Yeah.
And so I was able to sell it, and which I did. And then a couple of years after that, that company was having troubles, and I ended up buying it back for like nothing. So
that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big companies.
Right.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay. All right.
And during that, I was always interested in real estate.
So were you buying real estate investment?
Yeah, I was just interested in it. I
Yeah.
hadn't really bought anything in the earlier years. Later years, I bought some stuff. And, if you ask my kids, they would say, yes, we would go around to houses, that we saw, open houses and stuff like that. And if no one was there, they would tell you, my father tried opening the window and having us climb in to open the front door. It was like breaking and entering, but in a nice way. And so they were into it also,
Right.
just like I was. And
so it's funny, when I was younger, my love of homes and architecture comes from my father, because we grew up outside of Philadelphia, which are some of the most beautiful suburbs. And we would drive around and he'd show us homes. And now to this day, we have homes in the Hamptons, but I'll drive down any driveway I want. Kirk goes crazy. Yeah. I'm like, just tell them we're looking for the Goldbergs.
I'm the same way.
What are they going to do?
I'm the same way. But along the way, I tried other like when I was in high school.
Yeah,
my father wanted me to go to work with him. And on the weekends when he had to work on the weekends.
Right.
The one thing I learned very quickly is
you don't want to work weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He was a little volatile. He was great. I love my father.
Yeah.
But he was a screamer. And so I quickly thought, you know what really happens? I was, maybe I was 14, 15 at the time.
Right.
I actually believed and thought that I was smarter than my father, which of course wasn't true.
Don't we all?
I just thought that I was.
Right.
Okay. But I learned years later that I wasn't so, smart.
Okay.
So my mother was very smart. My mother graduated high school at 15 and graduated Hunter at 18.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And she worked?
She didn't really work much. She took a job at one point.
But she went to Hunter. That's incredible back then. Yeah.
Hunter was, whatever.
Yeah.
But the problem is when we moved from the Bronx to New Jersey, my father applied for a job with an electronics company, and he had to take a security. They had to check a security clearance because they did some government work.
Right.
And they found out that my mother, while she was at Hunter, was a member of the Young Communist Party, which, by the way, I found out later everyone was.
Right.
In those days.
That was like the young, you did.
Yeah. You joined the Communist Party.
And he didn't
like everyone. And I think the whole school was a member of the Young Communist Party.
Right. And probably the children of the
but
people that
they worked it out. My father got the job. So,
okay.
So it didn't really mean much.
Got it. All right. So we're moving along.
My mother was the type, though, that all my friends, when they had trouble with their homework, would come to my house or our house to have my mother help them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And your kids knew your parents?
Yeah. Yeah. My father died young. My mother died a few months before her 90th birthday. My father had a stroke, and I think he passed away about 73 years old.
Still, that's young, but but 90 is wonderful. Yeah. Okay, so you're moving along. Success is happening. Do you remember at a certain point where something shifted in you, where you really saw yourself differently, or you started focusing on even bigger and bigger goals or more expansive goals?
No, I wanted to do what I liked, and that was
is that where the real estate? Yeah.
And so a lawyer friend from Long Island called me and told me they had a client that had a real estate brokerage company. It was only in Long Island, and there were two partners. One was Dottie Herman.
Sure.
And then she had this partner who I don't even like thinking of his name. And he told me that Dottie was great, but the other guy was terrible. So whenever the company was doing well, okay, Dottie was running it and was doing well, and the other guy didn't really care. But as soon as it was doing poorly, I have it backwards. Yeah. As soon as it was doing well, he came in to take it over again.
Right. Okay.
And then surely after a few months, it was doing bad again. So then Dottie would come back in. Then it would be better again. Then it would be back and forth, back and forth. So I met Dottie first.
But did this lawyer, did people know you were looking for this type of company?
No, they just thought they knew I was doing deals. I had also bought Nathan's in between.
Got it.
Okay.
Stuff.
So they knew I was interested in, doing different things. So I met Dottie first, and she was great. And she told me about the partner, and I met the partner, and boy, he was a disaster. So I made a deal with him that he would still get paid, but he can't come to the office. Okay. That lasted 2 weeks. Then he started coming to the office.
Right.
And basically, we threw him out. And then I was able to buy the rest of his stock out. So then we each, Dottie and I each had 50%.
And
No,
this-
I didn't have 50. My company had 50.
20 years ago.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago. We bought Douglas Elliman. We bought what was called
Right.
Prudential Long Island
Right.
Realty.
Right.
About 5 or 6 years before that.
Right. Okay.
And with the other guy gone, Dottie did a good job, and it was became profitable.
Right.
And in fact, Realogy,
Sure.
I think in those days,
Yeah.
or Sendent, whatever it
Sendent,
was called
yeah.
in those days, offered a lot of money. And I said, I knew Dottie. I was pretty sure Dottie wouldn't sell, but I said to her, think about it. I don't care. It's not going to change my lifestyle. But you've never had any money, and this way you'd
Right.
really have some money that would take care of you and your needs and your family for years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I said, take as much time as you want. She called me the next morning, and I said, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I don't want to sell.
Right.
And then we decided, okay, what's our next step? What are we going to do? We're in Long Island. So we decided we want to open in the city. So
And you were living in Long Island at the time.
I was living in the South Shore of Long Island at the time.
Okay.
And Dottie was on the North Shore of Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was friendly with Andrew Farkas, who owned at the time Douglas Elliman.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured there was talk. He had it in a public company. And I was, in my conclusions in those days, I thought that brokerage companies, whether it's stock brokerage companies, real estate brokerage businesses, are all volatile.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. You can't get consistent growth. There's always bad years, and what investors like to see is consistent growth over long periods of time. So I knew that he had a commercial business and a residential business. The commercial business was the old Edward S. Gordon commercial business, and the residential business was Douglas Elliman. So I called him, and he said, I don't want to sell, whatever. But I knew there were stockholders that were trying to get him to sell. So I come into the office maybe a month after I spoke to him on the phone, and I walk into the elevator, and I look up, and there's Andrew Farkas. I say, hey, Andrew, we talked for a couple of seconds, and then he got off at the 32nd floor. I went up to the top floor where my office was, and I called the concierge, and I asked him who's on the 32nd floor.
Mm.
So he tells me that it was a private equity company, and I forget his name, but he was actually Dianne Feinstein's husband, and he had he had bought CB Richard Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
They controlled CB Richard Ellis at the
Right.
time. So now I'm more sure that Andrew's really going to sell the company. So I call him and leave a message on his phone because I knew he was still downstairs. He called me back late in the day. And I said, Andrew, what's the story? He says, okay, you called me. I'll tell you. We want to liquidate the company. We have a deal to sell CB Richard Ellis. And we have a deal to sell Douglas Elliman to Corcoran. And before I said, okay. And he said, but because of our market share and their market share, you have to go through FTC.
Right.
Approval. And that's going to take a while.
Because it's so big, yeah.
And then you may have to divest yourself of offices and stuff. So I said, it's perfect. I have no offices, in the city. We're just in Long Island. We had one teeny office in the city.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing. And so I could close immediately. I said, just send me over the contract. Whatever she's paying or whatever they're paying, I'll pay the same. And we'll get the deal done quickly. And that's really what happened. That's how we bought
amazing.
it. Yeah.
I mean, right place, right time.
Yeah.
An elevator and then
exactly.
And the concierge
that's life,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So there is luck in
there is.
Or being in the right place.
Yeah.
With some smarts. That's amazing. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I still kid Farkas about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's a very smart guy.
Yep.
Did you ever meet him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had dealings with him.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's been 25 years, 27 years with, the different real estate, but Elliman the last 20-ish. You always, you meet with all of us. You have time for anytime I call you on your cell. If you don't pick up, you call me 2 minutes later.
Well, look, the fact is, you can only do that if you really love the business.
You clearly like this.
I love the business.
Yeah.
I like communicating with people.
Right.
I like to help the brokers. And I have this, I think most of the companies, our size, a little smaller, a little bigger, our size though, basically, is they believe that the buyers and the sellers are their customers. Okay. I believe not that. I believe that the brokers are our customers and the buyers and sellers are their customers.
Right.
And so if you believe that, where should I spend all my time? I should spend it with the brokers. And I learned also early on that a couple of things I learned. Number one, and I learned that before Douglas Elliman, that I would always pledge to myself that I would return every phone call the same day I got it. Even if it's to say to someone, you know what, I really was tied up today, I'll call you tomorrow.
Right.
And that was been that way, my whole working life.
It's amazing.
I will admit sometimes it gets so crazy. Maybe it's going to take me 2 days, but
right.
I generally, but I'll always call them and I'll say, hey, I can't speak to you today. I'll call you tomorrow.
Right.
Now it's easier. You could text them or email them.
Right.
You don't say, I'll call you tomorrow. So that was an important factor. And I've stayed with that. And I know I'm very good. You know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I'm not really good at taking a new person and making them a good broker.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm really, really great at is taking a good broker and making into a superstar.
Right, right.
And from where you came, all the people that we brought in from other
Sure.
companies,
Yep.
who were substantial companies, and if they were doing $2 million in commissions within a year and a half, 2 years, they were doing $6 million.
Yeah.
So
yeah, certainly.
just
If you look at my trajectory,
yeah,
the last
exactly.
4 years,
yeah,
it's been good.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Why should you be different?
What's that?
You're
Exactly.
a smart guy.
There you go. There'd be a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So that's. I mean, you are about people.
Yeah.
And everybody loves you.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well,
Everybody
I can
loves
give you.
you.
I love when people say it to me. I said I can give you a whole list of people that don't like me. Believe me, I promise. There's a whole bunch. So something else I learned was that very important in business is a great brand name, and no matter how bad the management is in a company with a great name, and I'll give you some examples in a second, that those companies survive even with terrible management. And so there were 3 specific companies that I was involved with that had great brand names and
lacking management.
Lousy management.
Right.
And the first one I got involved in was Nathan's.
Right.
Okay. The hand workers had started the company. They really didn't do anything to improve it, whatever. And then we came in. The stock was public. We took it private. And then we took it public again, and the stock went from I think it came public at $8. It went to $2, and then it went to like $125.
Wow. Amazing.
And but it survived. And you think about it, it started in 1916, and it survived through most of the years, all the years of the hand workers. And I'm not blaming the hand workers, but it's just a fact. And then we bought with a partner at Western Union.
Mm-hmm.
Western Union was the old telex business.
Yeah.
And then we transformed it, but a great brand name. It was a very trusted company, Western Union. And so we took control of it and basically changed it and went into the money transfer business. They had lousy management. We went into the money transfer business, changed the management, and were able to sell that in a bankruptcy court for $1 billion,
amazing,
$300 million.
Wow.
We owed $900 million.
Okay, but you still
bank stuff. So
right,
so we ended up with $400 million.
Right.
In a basically shell company that we then used to buy some other companies, like Douglas Elliman.
Right.
We used that money there for that.
So brand name.
Brand names are very. It's almost impossible, no matter how bad the management is, to kill a really good brand that's been around for a long time.
Right. Wow.
So Western Union was around since the 1860s or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an old company.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I want to ask you 2 questions, or I want to hear about 2 stories. They both have to do with cars. One you've told before, but one I heard. The first, your Uncle Harry. So tell us The story with the car.
My Uncle Harry was in the garment business, and he was always, garment companies, they come, they go.
Right.
They have good years, terrible years. So he gave me a car that he had.
This was, how old were you?
I was, I guess, 16,
Okay,
17.
so like your first car.
Yeah, my first car.
Right.
And the bad news about Uncle Harry, may he rest in peace, is that he was a gambler. So whatever he made in the business disappeared.
Okay.
So one day he came and told me he had to take the car back because he has to give it to the bookies that he owes money to. So I said, okay, handed him the keys, and he drove off. And that was the end. That was the end of my first. That was the end of my first car.
All right, and then the other is more, I think, more known, which is the first time. What was it? You got a Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
and
the first place I went in a Rolls Royce was McDonald's drive-through.
Literally, like off the lot, and then
exactly.
Because
I just thought it was cool to go to McDonald's in a Rolls Royce. Why not? Right? Probably no one else ever did it, so I figured I would do it.
No, Warren Buffett goes in a a Cadillac.
A Cadillac.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so philanthropy is very important to you.
Yep.
You support. You give a lot. I remember. I won't say but when we were sitting in Palm Beach and they were doing that one, you looked at the group of who was on the board and made a comment to me. So tell me about, is it Silver Shield?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, that's where I'm going after this. We have our annual event.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That wasn't a prompt.
So Silver Shield was started by George Steinbrenner. The rationale of having an organization that would pay for 4 years of college education for the child of any police officer or firefighter killed in the line of duty.
Amazing.
And when he passed away,
right,
I took it over with a friend of mine and continued it. And,
so this has been an ongoing...
It's been an ongoing thing, yeah. Well, Steinbrenner passed away, I guess it was around 96, I think, or something like that.
Has it been that long? Wow.
No, 2006.
Okay.
2006,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
So, we built it up and... in fact, a lot of it really went, not a lot of it went, but, the 9/11 stuff happened before that. But that was a real mess, with all the cops and the firefighters and so forth.
Of course.
But thank God they had another fund anyway.
Yeah.
The 9/11 fund to take care of most of those needs.
Right.
But we take care of these kids. And then we also, like tonight, we'll have the event tonight. Tonight we'll have the people on the board of the Silver Shield. I'm the co-chairman with a friend of mine. And then we'll have a lot of the widows show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
That's beautiful.
And lots of police and fire.
Sure. Well,
the chief of police usually, the chief of the fire department, and then also from some of the other areas that we cover, like parts of New Jersey and Westchester and Connecticut.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Were your parents, who taught you about giving and tzedakah?
I don't know. I think it's just something that, caught me and I, wanted to do. I just, I'm pretty varied in
your giving?
In the giving and charities,
Yeah. You've told me that they are diverse.
Yeah.
Right. That's amazing.
My latest one
is
West Point.
And how and why West Point?
Because when I was chairman of the museum, I was asked to give a speech for the museum at West Point.
Right.
And I said, West Point, why West Point? They said, well, West Point has a Holocaust studies program that has like 150 cadets enrolled in the Holocaust studies program.
That's amazing.
So I was shocked. So I said, great. So I went up there and did it. And I loved it. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you for all you do.
Who would think West Point, right?
Didn't know where you were going with that one.
Exactly.
All right. We good?
We're
Anything
good.
else you need to tell me or tell the world?
Nope.
All right, Howard, thank you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to wrap this. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You can find us on all the media platforms, Stephen Cohen NY, and leave your comments, questions, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.